Hi, Shani. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Chris.
First off, congratulations on winning the prize. How does it feel
Thank
to
you.
win? How does it feel to win a literary prize for your contribution to LGBTQ literature in Canada?
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'm really deeply pleased about it.
Hmm.
One thing I've noticed recently is that as queer people, we tend to get nominated for prizes for our books, but we don't exactly win. I've actually been looking at the various prizes, and unless it's a queer prize, we don't make it right to the top. And that's been disturbing me. It's as if we have a lot of work to continue doing. So a prize like this is extremely meaningful to the entire community of writers across the country.
Well, thank you. And I know that, you did sit as a juror for this prize a few years ago. And I was wondering too, sitting on the jury, uh, did had being able to kind of pick a former winner for this prize, like going through that process and now kind of being a winner yourself, another jury, another situation, like did it make you, I guess, understand or appreciate the prize maybe in a different way?
Um, yes, when I think it was the second year or third year that I was involved in choosing a prize, and I did recognize the importance of the prize then. And when we were looking at the vast number of people who deserved the prize, there were some who rose like cream to the top, and you wanted them all to win. And it was really quite special. I'm glad that there will be an opportunity every year for English English and French.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a moving experience to be on that jury, understanding what it was about, and then choosing the winner, Sky Gilbert. What an amazing thing to be able to offer Sky up, you know, to the whole community, not just the queer community, but right across the country to all writers of all genres and so on, and say, look, take a look, you know.
Yeah. You're right, because there are so many people to choose from, and I mean there like we're very blessed in Canada. I feel like with a lot of people who laid the groundwork, I think, for LGBTQ literature in Canada.
That's the thing. That's the thing. There's a presence now that's not, as I say, it still needs a lot of work to get us out there, right at the top. But this work for where we are right now would not have happened without the people who need to be recognized, like Sky and Dion and other people. So very, very special to have this happening. And I'm like surprised and delighted to be part of this
Well,
on both ends,
yes.
Jira and yeah.
And so it's been, I think, 30 years since your debut novel, Sarah's Blooms and Night, was published in
Yeah,
1996. So this is
that's
actually
right.
its 30th anniversary. And from the very beginning of your career, you were writing about queerness and desire. What was it like? Like, we don't, sometimes we just wonder if today's folks know what it was like back then, but what was it like for you to be publishing this kind of literature back then in Canada in the 90s?
Well, very fortunately, I was published by a queer feminist press. There were a feminist press, but many of the people involved in it were queer. And it was an experiment for me. I came out of a visual arts background. I didn't mean to write. So I didn't feel like I was really exposing myself. I felt safe. It was a nice community of people I was writing around. I really didn't understand the writing world. In the visual arts world, the kind of visual arts I was doing, you play to your peers. You show in small galleries and everybody knows everybody. That's how I thought it was going to be with writing. I had no idea how far writing traveled. So when the book was longlisted and shortlisted for all these prizes and it went way out into the world, I panicked. I panicked. I definitely panicked. And in fact, where I come from, Trinidad, there was a kind of a backlash. I got into a certain amount of hot water for writing about queerness and about one of the characters was sexually abused in the novel, and there was a lot of trouble around that as well. So the two subjects were got me in trouble.
Mm,
Yeah. It was scary, but to see what has happened in Trinidad around queer issues, gay and lesbian and trans issues today, it's still problematic, but
mm,
there's a more visibility, a good visibility that's been happening.
mhm,
I don't know if you know of Colin Robinson. He passed away not long ago, but he was a real pioneer there and in the US amongst Caribbean people. And, my book sort of fitted into all of that. And
mm.
it's good. It's a good thing.
So you're returning to Trinidad in your latest book, Starry Starry Night.
Always, always.
Always, always. And our book club is reading the book as like the April selection for meetings in both Montreal and Toronto. And so in the book, you return to the 1960s Trinidad actually and explore the life of a young girl named Anju. And she's navigating family secrets, neglect, the complexities of class and race. And the book is described as a work of autofiction. And I'm kind of curious, like, what was it about this story that made you want to write it this way as opposed to maybe a traditional memoir?
Well, it's not that I wanted to write it as autofiction. It's after writing it and deciding how should this be marketed, with my publisher. Is this a novel? And with my editor and my agent, is this a novel? Is it memoir? It's definitely not memoir. There's so much fiction in it. But it is definitely not entirely fiction. And of course, more recently, the last 10 years or maybe a little bit more, the term autofiction has come from Europe, mostly from France, this way, and allowing us to put the name to books that actually have been written for a long time here, but it gives a kind more of a truth about what the book is.
Mhm,
It is very, very real memoir-like stuff, but not fictionalized, but embedded in fiction. So the two things are true.
mhm,
I'll give a concrete example. The incidents in the book, I would say 9.9 out of 10 of the incidents is absolutely accurate, real. But there are things, the bridging, I couldn't remember the bridging in between from one incident to the next. And also, I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories, giving color, giving texture. So that's the made up part in between.
mhm. Also, in
Yeah.
terms of your main character, your protagonist Andrew is a young girl in the book, right? And I'm kind of curious, like how you inhabited that voice while also maybe maintaining the distance needed for some of the heavy themes of the book.
Well, uh that child has lived in me for a long time because the main truth is that she was left with her grandparents as her parents were away, her father was studying. When they return to Trinidad, they take her at age 4 without her knowing who they are or understanding what has happened. And she's removed from the safe house that she used to be in with her grandparents. And I have spent most of my adult life trying to understand why and how that happened. So that child has kind of lived in me.
Hmm.
And my grandfather used to tell me, it is true. He used to call me and say, "Come, come, come. Look up the sky. What's the first star? Do you see the first star of the night? Wish on it." So that's what the wish was always that I would understand what happened, why I was left, and why I was together. I understand now. And in the book, you can see, you can understand why. The child doesn't understand, but the reader understands.
Hmm.
And as an adult now, I understand why. But it took some time, and that child just really, her voice was always there in me.
So, we say, returning to Trinidad, always returning to Trinidad, in your work. Do you see your work and including this novel like just as a way to preserve that culture and that time that you experienced? Is that what kind of brings you to Trinidad time and time again? What is the draw for you?
Well, the draw is that I lived there for the first 19 years of my life. It's a fabulous place, in terms of landscape, fauna, flora, but it's a hard place for a person who is different than everybody else, like who's queer and a woman who has a mind of her own and wants to do what she wants to do, someone who dreams out of the boundaries there. It's a hard place. And when you love a place, but it doesn't love you back, it's kind of sometimes one it's hard to turn your back on the place. You're gonna keep saying yes, but yes, but yes, but look, listen to me. I have something to say. And I don't think that it is only about Trinidad. There are a lot of Trinidadians, Caribbean people from those kinds of spaces living in Canada. And I think the work resonates here because not because I'm writing about Trinidad, but because so many people here recognize themselves and their stories in the works.
Can you speak a bit about the your writing process? Like as you've been doing this for a while now. Do you have a particular way in which you I guess like approach a text, attack a text?
Usually I have um, a picture in my head, right? Came out really out of a visual arts background. I had no intentions to write. And once I was approached by a publisher and invited to write, I had to figure out how to do this. And I actually relied on a performance piece by an art performance piece, performance art by Jasper Johns, the painter Jasper Johns, and the directions for his performance piece are take an object, do something to it, do something else to it, and that's ad nauseum. And so these pictures in my head, um, once I started trying to put them down, it's like you put down a line, you put down the image, and then you add to that, and you do something else to it, and then you go back and see where that came from. So I don't usually have a plot line or an agenda. I don't, it's usually something that's troubling me. And one of the things that I love about language is that you can work and work and work to find the right words, the right placement of a sentence, the right structure, um, to find meaning, to understand things. And that in particular the whole world that I've come out of trying to understand why do people have trouble with love? Why do people have trouble with what's wrong with loving someone? You know, language is a really, really excellent tool to try to work that out. So
I hear that you have four affectionate African gray parrots in your home,
yeah,
including one you rescued recently. And I read
yes,
I read also that their chatter keeps you grounded while you write. Is that true?
yeah.
And can you explain a little bit about like maybe how your love of animals or particular parrots might also kind of like factor into your creative process?
Well, when I was living in Trinidad, a lot of what would keep me grounded So first of all, I told you about my grandfather pointing me to the stars, right? That's a
Hmm.
kind of nature. Then when I lived in my family's in my parents' house with them and feeling like an outsider in the house, what grounded me was our we had an amazing garden that was landscaped by this fantastic landscape artist. And it was uh, we'd have so many birds and all kinds of like creatures coming into the plants, the birds, that the wildlife around me. That was that was my lifeline, as it were. Books were also my lifeline. Funny thing is, when I moved up here, well, I'll talk about moving to Toronto. The chatter in coffee shops was what grounded me. I would work in a coffee shop and I wouldn't hear a word of what was going on. And moving to the county where I live now, I don't know if you can hear the birds right now. They're whistling.
Yeah,
Can you
okay,
hear?
yeah.
Yeah. So, and when our house started filling up with the birds, that's what I needed also. I needed to have them around me. So, when they're like when I'm working and they're calling, what are you doing? What are you doing? Or, you know, uh, good morning, knock,
Sounds like
knock.
it sounds like they're calling you back now. It's like come back, Shani, right now. Shani, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. We're gonna have more time to speak together in Montreal, but I just wanted to get a
Look
little
forward
bit
to
of
it.
moment with you here to just again congratulate you on the recent news of the win. Um,
Thank you. And Chris, thanks a lot for reading the book at the book clubs. I really, really appreciate that. And I hope the readers enjoy it. And
Thank you.
I look forward to their questions too.
So if you're in Toronto or Montreal, someone watching right now, you're welcome to join our book club meeting. We're meeting April 11th in Toronto at Another Story Bookshop. In Montreal, we're meeting April 19th at Espace des Possibles in Montreal. And then on April 25th, Shani will receive the Blue Metropolis Violet Literary Prize in Montreal. The
Can't believe
ceremony
it.
the ceremony is at 2:30 p.m. at Hotel 10. Again, Shani, congratulations. Really well
Thank you.
deserved, and looking forward to seeing you in Montreal.
Thanks millions. I look forward to seeing you too.